The Timberwolves are going to be really good this season. Let's talk about it. So last year, the Timberwolves ranked as a seventh seed in the Western Conference, a very competitive conference. Before the season started, a lot of people did not have the Timberwolves really accomplishing much of anything. Anthony Edwards was progressing, and they were a question mark team. But with the addition of Patrick Beverley and the offensive growth from Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, and D'Angelo Russell actually playing more basketball games, they were a good team. They started out the season with a great defense, top 5 in the NBA, and then their team switched to a top 5 offense in the NBA. So this team was very weird last season, to say the least. They overall finished the season 8th in offensive rating and 13th in defensive rating overall, which is pretty balanced. But now let's get to the 2023 season for the Minnesota Timberwolves. They added the best rim protector in the NBA in Rudy Gobert, which is not a small feat. He's making a lot of money. He was on a Jazz team that was going down, but we're also talking about a Jazz team he was on that had the #1 offensive rating. And a lot of people look at Gobert as this player that is mainly a boost to their defense, but actually Rudy's going to do a lot of things positive for their offense. I'll break it down for you. So specifically what Rudy Gobert does to contribute positively to offense is D'Angelo Russell is a phenomenal pick and roll player. So when you're pairing him with a guy like Rudy who sets better screens than Karl Anthony Towns does and is a better vertical spacer consistently than Cat is, I think that adds a lot of value to their offense. But even beyond D'Lo, Rudy Gobert ranks top in the league in screen assists and again setting great off-ball screens. And I think that when you're having him in that dunker spot compared to Vanderbilt, who wasn't a real center, it really shifts the way teams have to try to guard that specifically. A big area of their team that Rudy Gobert will automatically improve, and by the way, this is offense, but this also ties into defense, is rebounding. The Minnesota Timberwolves were overall 16th in rebounding, which sounds pretty good, but when you break it down into defensive and offensive rebounding, they ranked 25th in defensive rebounding. Rudy Gobert is 7th in offensive rebounding and #1 in the league in both defensive rebounding and overall rebounding. So that's going to help them dramatically because you're talking about a big guy who averages almost 15 rebounds per game on this roster, generating more offensive rebounds so the team can have multiple possessions, but B, more defensive rebounds to close out defensive possessions and trigger their fast break offense. So from my perspective, when you look at Gobert, he's going to be able to make a lot of changes to the way this team plays defense, because when you have a guy on the back line like that who's the best rim protector in the NBA, he can make up for a lot of the other players' mistakes. He shifts Cat to the 4, which now puts him in a better position compared to having Vanderbilt being the 5 on defense anyway. So now you have a dedicated back line, which can make the team not have to run such a aggressive scramble defense to make up for Cat's deficiencies on the interior. He adds a lot of things and dynamics to this team, and on top of it, they still kept a lot of their core pieces. The thing about trading for Gobert is you have to make sure that if you're going to trade all those assets away, you have a better situation. And in my estimation, the Timberwolves absolutely do have a better situation than there was in Utah. I think there's more offensive weapons in Karl Anthony Towns, D'Lo, and specifically Anthony Edwards, who we all expect to have a big leap. But defensively, there's better pieces and less liabilities around Gobert than in Utah. Now, it's still going to hurt to not have a very strong POA defender. The Timberwolves are banking on Anthony Edwards making that leap to turn into an elite defender. But as far as right now is concerned, I don't think they have a very strong POA. However, they do have positive defenders. I think that Jaden McDaniels is a guy that showed a lot of value in the playoffs. His shooting form looked pure in the playoffs, even though he's not a great percentage shooter. So for me, they do have potential with those guys. this type of move for Minnesota was not this flashy move to where they're adding this 25 points per game superstar. No, they're adding a guy to fix the core fundamental issues this team had. And that comes down to timely rebounding, which we saw in the playoffs at multiple times. And it comes down to having someone clean up for the mistakes a young team can make from time to time. And adding a grizzled veteran like Gobert in this type of situation, I think maximizes their defense and their offense for many reasons, as I stated before. But we're now going to go to a different part of the game that matters, and that's screening. A lot of people, when you ask them what Anthony Edwards' next leap is, they will tell you in points per game, but they don't talk about the specifics. To me, having a screener like Gobert, you should see a lot more actions where it's Anthony Edwards and Gobert involved in either off-ball screening or even on-ball pick-and-roll actions. And I think that Gobert, with his screening specifically, he ranked amongst the top 10 in screen assists, and he was generating a lot of great open looks for Utah. So specifically, putting him in a place like this where there's a bunch of versatility, there's multiple ball handlers to go, and there's multiple guys who can actually knock down shots from the perimeter, Gobert can have a lot of success. And I think we should value that and really take that in when we're trying to evaluate exactly how good this team is. Which takes us to the final part of the video. How good is Minnesota going to be next year? In my estimation, the peak ceiling for Minnesota this year would be the #1 seed.
My God, Lord have mercy. I mean, Lord.
The ingredient to winning a bunch of regular season comes down to 4 to 5 areas: rebounding, defensive consistency, a good half-court offense, durability, and motivation. When you look at all 5 of these areas, Minnesota is a team that made this move to compete and win now in this time. And even though they might not win a championship this exact year, this is their first year to really build the framework and the blueprint for what their vision is with Anthony Edwards and Karl-Anthony Towns as their number 1 and 2 guys on this team. And adding Gobert in to a system like this where they're hungry, they're trying to prove things, they made this big splash, this would be the year for them to absolutely take off. And again, I gave you the numbers earlier, but remember, this was a team that was 8th in offensive rating and 13th in defensive rating. If you add a guy like Gobert on your team, he can improve both of those areas to where they could be a top 10 offense and defense. It would not surprise me if they are a team that surprises everybody, wins a bunch of regular season games, and claims a top 3 seed in the West. I currently have the Timberwolves slotted as a 3 seed. I do think they could possibly be higher. However, the teams that I have above them, I think, are also going to be regular season juggernauts, and I think that they are a bit more proven than Minnesota so far. So that's the reason why I would more so take them over them, which those 2 teams are Golden State and the Denver Nuggets. Jokic breakdown coming soon. But those would be the only teams I would have above them. They have an argument to be lower than this, obviously, but I'm just higher on Minnesota than a lot of people are. And for all the reasons I've tried to eloquently, put out in this video, you should be high on them as well. But yeah, that's going to conclude this video. Let me know how you feel about Minnesota. Am I overrating them? Am I underrating them? What do you think they'll be able to do? As far as championship contention, I do not believe they are a championship contender this season. I think next season, after seeing how things look and adding some additions on the margins, they could potentially emerge in that conversation. But as far as this upcoming season, to me, their expectations should be to make the playoffs, get out of the first round, and make it to the second round and see what happens from that point on. Anything other than that, to me, is a failed season for Minnesota. But yeah, that's going to end the video. That's my prediction on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Again, let me know how you feel about them. Am I overrating them? Am I underrating them? What do you think they will be able to accomplish this season? I'm very excited for NBA basketball. So again, more uploads are going to be coming on this channel. Make sure to tap into the live streams where we talk about basketball live on the channel. Those are always very fun and very lively. But the amount of solo video breakdowns on this channel are going to increase tremendously. Just have some patience. I do work a 9-to-5 job, and YouTube does not pay the bills just yet, but we're working on getting there with y'all support. So appreciate y'all. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next NBA video. Peace.